All right, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to add a foundation to your habitat house design. So here I have the basic layout of a habitat home. You can see that there are some exterior and interior walls. I happen to have, again, typical exterior wall. There's a floor underneath, and we're going to be concerned with adding a foundation. Now, keep in mind, I may talk about how to add these items, but in your habitat house design, you may be making modifications to the type of wall that you're using for both the exterior walls as well as foundation walls. And I guess I will maybe add that in at the end of the video for those that are interested in reviewing how to do that. So our first step in this process is to go and check one of our elevations. And I'm checking a north elevation here. And it is highly likely that you will have some levels very similar to what you see here. And we should adjust these now if we are aware of them. Another thing that I'm seeing on this particular file is that this view is a default set to a shaded view. And I don't want an elevation to be a shaded view, so I'm going to change it to a hidden line. So when it comes to our levels here, again, it's beneficial but not necessary to have these heights set up prior to starting. However, we can always change them later as all these heights are parameter-driven items. So we see here our first floor is at a 0 height. Our foundation is 1 foot 3 inches below ground or 0 level. We have a height for our basement and our footings. So the first item we should do is make sure we have a correct level for our ground. And for this project, we are going to use ground level at 0. So let me back up there. I might have done that too fast. So under the architecture menu, we're going to go over to the top right where it says level, and I want to add a level in. Some of you may have deleted, may have modified. We can rename. There are a number of options. But for our purposes here, I'm going to add a new level. And I'm going to start on the left, and I'm going to left click to place my level. And I'm going to drag this out. And you'll notice that I'm trying to use the kind of link or lock line that Revit tries to give us. So all of these levels are vertically aligned on both sides. So I'm going to left click and place that level there. When I have added that level, you'll see over in your project browser that it has added level 8 now on our floor plan layout. With that being said, I'm going to now set forth on dealing with some of these level heights. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the first floor level, and I'm going to make it, 2 feet above ground. We don't really know what that height's going to be yet, but I'm just going to put it up there for now. The foundation level, as we have discussed previously, generally sticks out about 8 inches above ground. And level 8, I'm going to now rename, and I'm going to call this ground level. Some people may call it grade, and it is just referring to the level of the earth outside of our structure. If you get this pop-up, which you most likely will, we do want to rename the corresponding views. Remember, we talked about how it said level 8 over here in the project browser. I want that level 8 to now change to ground level. And then ground level should be at 0 feet 0 inches. The next thing I'm going to focus on is the fact that I can't read all the information that is here. So on these level markers, when they are highlighted, over on the right-hand side, you should see a little toggle, okay, an elbow. And if I want to make it so these level markers are all legible, I can toggle that elbow, and then I can move these up and down so they are properly spaced out enough that they are not interfering with one another. So now we have a ground level, foundations 8 inches above ground level. First floor we have yet to really determine. And if we zoom out here, well, you'll see that there's some height issues going on here. Again, to kind of pay attention to some details. I know I'm going to probably have to play with some of these location line or these level lines extending way beyond our elevation eventually. So I'm just going to modify and bring them closer now so it's easier to see. The other things that we did based upon our design is we are going to have a crawl space. And for that crawl space, I believe that we need to have the footing below frost line. In our classroom discussions, we had determined that, 4 feet below ground would probably be all right. I believe that meets the frost line of the weather data that we use in class. It also will hopefully meet the height that is required in a crawl space, where the height below the floor joists above and I'll call it crawl space. Maybe we should rename this crawl space because we don't have a basement. Crawl space. Yes. Needs to be about 4 feet, I believe, is what we see in the new construction guidelines. So to make it easy right now, I'm just going to pick some arbitrary numbers, and we can certainly change these at a later date. So I'm going to go 4 feet below ground in the crawl space. And if we back up real quick, you'll see that the difference in height between the crawl space and the footing is 8 foot plus 6. 8 foot 6 plus 6 is 9 feet. So 6 inches and plus another 3, that's 9 inches difference between them. So if I go minus 4 feet on the crawl space, I'm going to go minus 4 foot 9 inches on the footing, and then I'm going to go 5 foot 9 inches, minus 5 foot 9 on the footing. Again, those numbers could change. They are just kind of ballpark numbers to get us in position to start putting in a realistic crawl space foundation as opposed to a full basement foundation. So once we've made those changes, I'm going to make my way back to my first floor plan. It is here that we're going to add a foundation wall in, and that will be put in using the wall command here. And if we are using the residential template file that was suggested in class, we will have a number of different wall types available to us. And again, for our purposes, we're going to probably end up selecting the 10-inch thick concrete foundation wall. Again, the thickness of that foundation wall is actually determined by a number of factors. Weight that the structure needs to support, what kind of exterior finishes we have on our walls, among other things. So for our demonstration purposes, I'm using the 10-inch concrete foundation wall, which I will select. Next, I'm going to pay attention to the base constraints, and I want the bottom of my foundation wall to start at the TO footing layer, and I want the top of that foundation to come up to the foundation level. Okay. The other thing that would be worthwhile to pay attention to is the location line. You can see that here in properties or up at the top in the green with the drop down. And we want to do finish face exterior. We want to do finish face exterior. So when we draw our exterior walls, our exterior foundation walls, we will be using the outside of our exterior walls as reference. So I'm going to left click here to start our wall. And you can see here, if I come down from where I started, the foundation wall sticks out beyond the exterior walls of the house. We don't want that. So in this case, I want to go in a clockwise fashion around the perimeter of my home. Keep an eye out for those snap settings, those purple magenta markers that will help us find endpoints. And I want to do that on all 4 corners in this particular example. That should have, make sure I didn't make a mistake there, should have created foundation walls on all 4 sides. Okay, so our foundation walls are in, and some of you may notice that there's a bit of an issue here that we'll tie up after we get our footing in. Now, for placing the footing, there are a couple of ways to do this. The easiest way that I found is for us to go into the structure menu, and I want to grab the wall, structural foundation wall option. And you can see here in the preview, it's saying, hey, in this blue stuff, we're going to create a footing. So that's what I want to utilize. And again, in the template file that we are using, there are two settings or two standard sizes. We're going to go with a 24 by 12 by 12 option. It is larger than we need. However, for our purposes, this will get us in the ballpark. Okay. So I'm going to select that 24 by 12 by 12. And then the nice thing about using this structure option is I can just simply select the wall. Notice I am doing this in the 3D view, and it will add the footing in for me. And hopefully it will add it in the correct orientation. And that correct orientation would be that there is minimal amount of that footing sticking out beyond our foundation wall. There is a much wider section sticking towards the inside of our habitat house. So that's how we put a foundation wall on. If that's all you're interested in learning about, you're more than welcome to quit now. But for continuing on, let's talk about a couple of other details. For this, I'm going to go to our floor plans, and I'm going to go to the foundation level this time. So here we're seeing the footings, we see our foundation wall, and then there is an overlay or underlay of our floor above. I'm going to turn that off right now, and I'm going to go over here to the properties, and I'm going to find this underlay, and I want no underlay. And that should now clear things up, so all we see is our foundation footing and our foundation wall. Now, in the real world, we're going to have a floor down here. We're not going to generally, we might, but we might have earth, we might have crushed stones, we could even have a concrete pad. And for our purposes today, I'm going to demonstrate putting in a concrete pad. And I can either use slab here, or I can go over to architecture and go and put in a floor and select a concrete slab here. They should work the same way. I'm going to continue using these same things that we have talked about how to do previously, which was let's use a floor, and we're going to select a 4-inch concrete slab. And I'm going to make my way around the inside edge of my foundation walls. Now for this, I'm going to come up to the modify area under the menu, which hopefully came open when you went in to make a floor. And I'm going to select a rectangle for my example. If you do not have a rectangular type layout, then maybe the individual lines here would work. But I'm going to simply go from the inside edge of one corner to the other edge there. And that should now create the boundary of my footing. I'm sorry, not my footing, my crawl space floor. And you can see here where when I had that highlighted, we have the ability to lock those lines into position. I don't foresee changing the shape of my foundation at this point in time, but if I did, having those lock lines locked into place along the edge of the footing would make any changes seamless, or should anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm done making that floor. I do not want to do the desire to have the walls attached to the floor, so don't attach. And now I should see, what did I do? There's my floor. I have it at the wrong level. It's not supposed to be at the foundation level. It should be down at the crawl space level. And if I apply that, now we have the crawl space floor much farther down. And again, some of this becomes hard to see as your design changes. So what I'm going to do, again, as a reminder, you might not have one made yet, but we have the option to put in a wall section. And I'm just going to place a section right over here very quickly so we can look at what we're seeing. Okay, and again, I'm going to turn the detail level up, And so now I'm seeing that I have my BO footing here. I have my crawl space at this level. And again, I need to probably expand some of these so we can see what they're saying. Because again, we're kind of focusing on some details now. Again, the height of my crawl space level right now is probably a little off. I don't generally need, what is this? 4 inches of thickness. That's 4'4". I don't need 5 inches of space between my crawl space and my top of the footing. Maybe I only need an inch. So I'm going to change this to 4'8". It might be sorry. I am not thinking right. So it's a 4-inch slab. So 4'5" would give me 1 inch. 4'5". 4'5" should give me, again, 4'4". Ooh, 4'4" would give me the 1 inch gap. Okay, and again, I've seen varying heights between there, and that's again to allow that slab to possibly float a little bit more and not sit on top of our footing. Okay, so that's where I'm going to leave my crawl space slab at. And then there is the issue we have up top here. And again, that you may or may not be interested in this at this point in time, but we have talked about it in class about how to properly align the floor with the concrete wall and the exterior wall. So I will review that here in this video as well. So we talked about needing to place a sill plate here between the top of the foundation and the underside of our floor framing. So we talked about going and getting under the annotate. Annotate. And I am going to go and load a component. And in this case, when I'm under annotate and component, I should be able to find dimensional lumber. And I want to select 2x8 so I can use this as a guide, because I want this to effectively give me the spacing necessary to get my floor at the correct height. Okay, and again, if I used a 12-inch floor, it's going to be a different setting than if I used a 10-inch floor. And again, depending upon the materials used in those 10-inch floors might be slightly different thicknesses. So I now need to figure out what the difference in distance is between the bottom edge of my floor framing to the top edge of my sill. And I'm going to use the ruler measuring tool up here at the top left. And I'm going to simply measure between the bottom of the floor and the top of the sill plate. And we can see here that it is 3 3/4 of an inch. So what I need to do is now bring this floor down. The height of the floor needs to change and reduce by 3 3/4. So 12 minus 3 is 9. 9 minus 3/4 is 8 1/4, I believe. Let's see how that worked out. Oh yeah, makes up for my stumbling earlier. Okay, so now the first floor height is set correctly for the thickness of the floor in my design, the 2x material for our sill plate, and again, sitting then on the edge of our foundation. Last but not least, most homes have 8-foot ceilings. At this point in time, if we've now established the height of our first floor level, maybe I want to then also adjust the height of my ceiling level. Again, if I have 8-foot ceilings, well, 9 foot 8 1/4 would be my height. If I wanted 9-foot ceilings, well, that'd be 10 foot 8 1/4. And I'll just to make the math easy, just add 8 feet to the 1 foot 8 1/4, which is 9 foot 8 space 1. Oh, what's going on here? 9. Let's try that again. 9 foot. That's an inch. Foot 8 space 1/4. and that will give me correct 8-foot ceiling heights. Okay. Last but not least, many people will make comments about how, hey, now I can see my floor floating above my foundation walls, and the walls aren't covering up the edge of my floor. So the last couple components here to make this looking nice is to first select all your exterior walls. And you'll see here, I'm in a 3D view. We can do this modification in a 3-dimensional view. And I'm going to select one of my exterior walls. And then I'm going to right click. And I'm going to select all the instances of that wall type in the project. That only works if you have used different wall types for interior and your exterior walls. They are different. So once I have all those selected, I can modify them all at the same time. And what I'm looking to do is change the base constraint of these walls to the foundation level. And when I do that, you see that that wraps up very nicely the floor, and I can't see the floor through the exterior walls. Last but not least, that detail, if we look at our section view, we do have a little bit of an issue here, and that is the floor and the wall are occupying the same space. Now, for most of you, there's an easy fix to this. Worst case scenario, maybe is just redrawing your floor. But what we want to do is have the software actually notch the wall so you don't have these overlapping items. And the easiest way, if things work, aside from the little detail down here that won't get taken care of, is to simply select our floor, and we're going to edit its boundary. And I'm just going to go to my first floor plan to view, and I'm going to do absolutely nothing. Okay, and I don't need to do anything because my walls are aligned with the outside edge of my wall framing on all 4 sides, or all however many number of sides your house has. And I'm just going to say I'm done editing. And by going through that, usually we're going to get this pop-up which says, hey, the roof and the floor overlaps with some walls, and it's highlighting the walls where the overlap is occurring. Would you like to join the geometry and cut the volume out of the wall? And in this case, I want to say yes. And when I do that, if I go take a look at my section view, you'll see now I have a nice notched wall for my floor. That about wraps up this short video. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch you next time.